Hello, and welcome to Insights in Caribbean Intellectual Property, the official podcast of the Caribbean and Americas Intellectual Property Organization, CAAIPO. I'm Clarissa Dean, along with Matthew Hale. On this edition, we will be discussing the role of the Caribbean Court of Justice in intellectual property matters. The Caribbean Court of Justice, or CCJ as it's commonly known, is the highest court of law for signatory states in the CARICOM region. Intellectual property rights. Sounds boring, right? But what if I told you that right now in Caribbean marketplaces, there's a fascinating underground economy worth millions built around what locals call contour goods, and there's a 20-year-old solution that could transform the entire region's approach to this challenge?
That's really interesting timing, because this proposal about using the Caribbean Court of Justice for IP cases seems more relevant now than ever, especially with the explosion of digital content and online commerce.
You know what's fascinating about this whole situation? Back in 2010, Dr. Abiola Inniss proposed this incredibly forward-thinking solution to handle IP disputes across the Caribbean region. And here's the thing. While most countries were still trying to figure out how to deal with basic copyright issues, she was already thinking about a unified regional approach.
The timing really was remarkable, and from what I understand, the proposal came just as digital piracy was becoming a major concern in the region.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. Most Caribbean countries are part of the World Trade Organization, which requires them to implement something called TRIPS, the Agreement on Trade-Related Aspects of Intellectual Property. But, there's this huge gap between signing these agreements and actually enforcing them.
Well, that makes me wonder, what's actually stopping these countries from enforcing these laws effectively?
So it's actually a perfect storm of challenges. First, you've got limited financial resources for enforcement. Then there's this whole economic reality where, and this is crucial, many families actually depend on selling what we might call bootlegged goods just to make ends meet. And get this, in some countries, they haven't even managed to enact the basic laws yet. Like the Guyana Copyright Bill from 1999 is still just sitting there.
That's exactly why this proposal to use the Caribbean Court of Justice seems so clever. It's about using existing infrastructure rather than expecting each country to build something from scratch.
Right. And you know what makes this even more relevant today? Think about how the digital economy has exploded in the last few years. We're not just talking about physical goods anymore. We've got Caribbean creators making content for TikTok, selling digital art, producing music for global streaming platforms. All of these need proper IP protection.
Though I imagine some critics might argue that it's beneath the dignity of such an important court to handle these kinds of cases.
Well, that's where Dr. Innes made this brilliant point. She said Caribbean citizens would prefer to get value for money in lieu of ostentation and pretense. Like, let's focus on what actually works rather than what looks impressive. You know?
The European model really shows how this could work, doesn't it? Their Court of Justice has been handling IP cases successfully for decades now.
Mm-hmm. And here's what's particularly interesting about that comparison. The European Court of Justice established their court of first instance for IP matters back in 1988, and since then, they've built this incredible body of case law. It's like a roadmap for how this could work in the Caribbean.
So what's actually happened with this idea over the past decade? Has there been any progress?
It's been kind of a mixed bag. The term Caribbean intellectual property has gained traction, which is something, and CARICOM's working on this Caribbean Patent Convention. But, and this is crucial, we still don't have a clear solution for handling disputes quickly and efficiently.
Looking at the broader economic impact, how might better IP protection actually benefit the region?
Oh, this is where it gets really exciting. Research shows that strong IP protection can boost innovation and creative industries. But here's the key: only if it's implemented in a way that makes sense for local conditions. Like, you can't just copy-paste solutions from developed economies and expect them to work.
The pandemic must have really highlighted the urgency of this issue.
You know what? It absolutely did. When physical borders closed, digital commerce became even more important. And suddenly, all these IP issues that people could kind of ignore before became really urgent. Like, how do you protect a Caribbean creator's digital content when it's being shared across multiple jurisdictions?
The proposal by Dr. Inniss really does seem ahead of its time in recognizing these challenges.
And what's fascinating is how scalable this solution could be. As new types of intellectual property emerge, think AI generated works or blockchain based assets, the same framework could adapt to handle them. It's like building a flexible infrastructure that can grow with technological changes.
Though I imagine there would need to be careful consideration of how to balance international standards with local needs.
That's precisely why this proposal is so clever. It suggests using an existing, respected regional institution rather than trying to create something entirely new. The Caribbean Court of Justice already has the infrastructure and expertise to handle complex legal issues.
Looking ahead, what do you think the next few years might hold for Caribbean intellectual property rights?
Well, here's what's becoming clear. Whether through this specific proposal or some evolution of it, the Caribbean needs to find a way to protect intellectual property rights while supporting local innovation. And you know what, Dr. Inniss wrote? That it will be up to citizens to insist on better conditions and to enlighten their leaders about better ways to serve the community. Maybe that's where we are now, at the point where public pressure could finally make this happen.
That really brings home why this conversation matters so much right now.
Indeed, it does. And on that note, we'll wrap up for today. Remember, sometimes the most elegant solutions aren't about creating something new, they're about using what you already have in smarter ways. Thanks for joining us on Insights in Caribbean Intellectual Property. Please follow us wherever you listen to this podcast so that we can let you know about new episodes. If you listen to us on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share. See you next time.